the Weekly Show with David J. Maloney.
This week, David chats with legendary actor George Chakiris.
And now, here's your host, David J. Maloney.
Welcome, everyone, to the Weekly Show. I'm your host, David J. Maloney. On tonight, we got the next part of my interview with legendary Academy Award-winning actor George Chakiris. There was a time when Hollywood truly felt like a dream factory, when Technicolor musicals filled the screen with song, dance, and starlight. George lived right in the heart of that golden age. He began his career dancing alongside icons like Marilyn Monroe in Gentlemen Prefer Blondes and Rosemary Clooney in White Christmas before stepping into the spotlight himself. In 1961, he gave the world one of the most unforgettable performances as Bernardo in West Side Story, a role which earned him both an Academy Award and a Golden Globe, and which forever etched his name in Hollywood history. His artistry didn't stop there. He went on to captivate audiences on stage, on television, and even in the world of design. He's one of the last living links to that era of elegance and cinematic magic. Tonight, we welcome back the legendary George Chakiris. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. So you jet off to England for the run of the play there. What's the memory that sticks out to you the most when you think about your time in the UK working on West Side Story?
Oh, I'll tell you what. First of all, I loved working in the UK. We opened in Manchester first, before going to Her Majesty's Theatre in London, and in those days, but the fog was like you saw in Frankenstein. It was really heavy because later, you could only have smokeless fuel in your house, but at that time it was really thick. I remember that. And the opening, Princess Margaret came to one of our previews in London before we opened. I think the day before we opened, and we all got to meet Princess Margaret. I noted what a beautiful woman she was, very beautiful. And then we opened, and there I was playing I played a riff for almost a year before we started hearing the rumors of a movie. And the rumor was, one of the rumors was that for the movie, it would be Elizabeth Taylor and so we all thought, well, there's no one Elizabeth Taylor in this group. So obviously, they were big star, no place for us. But one day I got a letter from United Artists asking me to do a test, a film test, and they asked me to do a scene as Riff and a scene as Bernardo. And there were four others in the cast that were also asked to do movie tests. But one day they drove us all out to Elstree Studios outside of London to do our respective tests. And that was such an amazing day. The camera was focused on us individually for our tests, and so it was an extraordinary kind of experience, And when the day was over and all of us had done our tests, we drove back to the theater to go do the show that night, and then the weeks start to go by, and we'd pass each other in the hallway. Have you heard anything? Have you heard anything? Nobody heard anything, and 4 or 5, 6 weeks were going by. And so one night before the performance, there was a call at the stage door. I didn't have a phone in my room. There was a call to the stage door from Jerry Robbins, and he said, "We liked your test, but we'd like to test you further." He didn't say for what. And he said, do you think you could get a week's leave of absence? So the London, they let me leave the show for a week to fly to LA to meet Bob Wise and see Jerry and so on. And I also got to see my parents because I hadn't seen them for more than a year. So I went to, it was called Golden Studios at the time here in Los Angeles, and that's where West Side Story was ultimately filmed. So I met Jerry and I met Bob Wise, and both very, very nice. That was on on a Monday or Tuesday, and I did my test. I don't remember why I remember this, but I did. It was on a Thursday, and Jerry directed the test, and I tested with a girl whose name was Barbara Luna, who's been quite successful on her own right, but I thought she was really hot tender for Anita because she was so wonderful. So after Thursday, I spent the next couple of days with my parents and then flew back to London at the end of the week to go back into the show. Okay. And then more weeks started going by. More weeks, so quite a few weeks. And Bob Wise did a very nice thing that I don't think he didn't have to do it, but he did. It was very, very nice. He sent me a letter. He said, I'm sorry, I'm paraphrasing. I'm sorry they haven't told you anything yet, but we feel we need to cast the role of Anita before we cast her brother, Bernardo. Well, that made sense to me. So it's just more waiting. And I had fallen in love with tennis at Wimbledon during that time. And I remember on a Friday, I was at Wimbledon with some friends watching, I can't remember, maybe Rod Laver was playing. He was a big tennis player at that time. And I thought it was still early. It was maybe just 4 or 4:30 in the afternoon. And something told me, go to the theater. So I left my friends and I went to the theater, and I got there way too early for the show. But there was a telegram waiting for me telling me I had the role of Bernardo in the film. So, but by the way, being in England, I loved England. I just loved England. I bought a house outside of London in Surrey for a while. But the English theatrical community was so great to us. They really welcomed us with open arms, and it's true, they really did. So I got to know a lot of people in the English theater community. Albert Finney and Peter O'Toole were rising stars at that time. But we all socialized with each other in people's apartments after different performances, So I was getting to know a lot of people and really appreciating I'll say, British humor, which I think is wonder. But just it was just a great time. Yeah.
So you wound up in the movie version playing Bernardo, the leader of the Sharks, whereas previously you'd been playing the role of Riff, the leader of the Jets. What was the switch like for you? Was that just because you'd been on set doing this play for so long? Was it an easy thing for you to do because you've been seeing somebody else do it?
Doing the show for as long as I did, before I did Bernardo, in the speakers in the hallway so that nobody misses the cue, you hear everything that's going on stage. So I was hearing all of it nonstop. I remember I said to Rita Moreno, I said, I could have played it. Anita, I know this show so well. So to make the switch, I'll say, to Bernardo was somehow very natural to me. And in the beginning, I thought, I don't want to play Bernardo. I love playing Riff. That's what I want to do. But that didn't happen that way. And it was lucky that it didn't happen that way. When you're working on something, and if it's a different role, you have to apply yourself to that role, whatever it is. I was lucky. In the theater production, Riff sings cool. And the American number was done by just the girls. Chita Rivera, doesn't get better. And so in the theater version, I got to sing cool. Riff sang cool. In the film version, cool is sung by another character, by a character called Ice, played by Tucker Smith, who was just fantastic. But the good thing about playing Bernardo in the film was the guys were incorporated in the American number, and everybody loves the American number. So that in both cases, it was more meat on the bones, so to speak. So it added to the impression that any actor can make with those roles, because there was just more to do.
That American number is such an earworm. It made me think about, I'm like, do you wake up some nights with America running through your head? Like that is such a catchy tune to have been, and it's just, wow.
That's the thing about the American number. It's such a wonderful number, and a choreographer named Peter Gennaro helped Jerry Robbins with some of the choreography in that number. But we had so much fun doing that number because we'd play with each other between takes as well. And Bob and Jerry were great. They really let us play. We even ruined some takes in the course of playing, but the spirit was so potent that it was wonderful for everybody involved. West Side Story being filmed at America. I was filmed in Panavision, and in the town, people from other studios were seeing some of the rushes at Panavision. So the word was out. We learned the word was out about there was this movie being made at Goldwyn Studios with all these kids, and so lots of people from making other movies in Los Angeles came to visit us and watch us work. And I say that just because the energy of that piece was so potent that we certainly felt it, but I think it translated to other people appreciating it as well. But the American number was especially because of what it was about. The boys at the I like to be an American. The guys and the girls against each other, very playfully against each other. It was just beautiful, the working on it, and there was one place where we're out that there's a section in American number where just the three guys with me in the middle, and in that section there's just a double pirouette, and while we were rehearsing, I was still getting my traction on the floor. So in rehearsal, I just did one pirouette, not three. And Jerry very nicely came up to me and he said, are you just going to do one pirouette? He said very politely like that. Of course, anyway, funny things like that. Also, I can remember shooting the prologue in New York, and between takes, we were waiting for things to resume. And I found myself accidentally standing right next to Jerry, and I didn't know what to say. I did not but he didn't know what to say either. I think he was just as shy as I was. Anyway, I'm intervening different thoughts as we go along here, but the American number was just, I can remember the end of one of those shooting days for America. I think it might have taken 4 days to actually film. But Jerry said, as we were all leaving the soundstage, he said, that was a very good spirit today. And it was.
I was going to selfishly ask how long it took to do that. You're saying it took 4 days.
I think it took about 4 days to finish.
I'm guessing a gazillion takes from a lot of different angles. And the editing to put it together was fabulous too.
Yeah. Well, listen, Jerome Robbins, the West Side Story exists because of him. He created it. He thought of it for the theater and before it. And thank God he was involved in the film, because without him, in my opinion, it could never have been the same. Because to me, the two strongest things about West Side Story are the score, Leonard Bernstein's score, and Jerry's choreography and direction. Yeah.
At what point in the process did you get to meet the incredible Rita Moreno?
Oh, the first day of rehearsal.
And did you guys hit it off immediately? Was it like, was it like, or was
yeah, we all, the day started, we had to take a class. We did a ballet class to warm up to dance. And there's something about working, we all had this same thing in common. So, but I will say that of of all the kids in West Side Story. There were two in particular that I had a close, very close bond with, and one was, of course, Rita, who remains a friend now, and the other was this wonderful girl, Yvonne Othan, who we lost just a couple of years ago. But Yvonne's humor was pervasive. We all latched on to Yvonne's humor. But I got to know Rita starting the first day of rehearsal. That's when we all first met, you know.
Did you have any interesting or fun conversations with Russ Tamblyn about your experience playing Riff?
No. You mean, do we exchange ideas or anything like that? No. God, listen, Russ he's so wonderful. He really is so wonderful. And he didn't need to ask anybody any questions. He was very solid. And one of the wonderful things that in the film with Russ, in the dance at the gym, they added some, because Russ was a tumbler and an acrobat, and they added some of that in the competition, which heightened the competition thanks to what Russ was able to bring to it.
Did you ever get to meet Leonard Bernstein or Stephen Sondheim? And if so, what do you remember about those moments?
I met Stephen Sondheim. When we were doing the London company, Leonard Bernstein and his wife came to see the show. So when it was over, we all were in a semicircle backstage, and we met him that way, you know, just very briefly. But with Stephen, I worked with Stephen later, and Stephen was, God, I love Stephen. I love him. But on West Side, I didn't get to know him.
Now, on West Side, obviously it had wonderful success on Broadway, but that alone is never a guarantee for a film. But did you guys kind of have a feeling when you were making the film that you knew you were making something special? I mean, did you guys have a feeling this was going to be a smash hit?
Well, I don't know if we thought about success or money or anything. We just loved what we were doing. And one day, between shots, I was standing out, I don't know with who, in the alley talking to each other, and there were two gentlemen there, I think from the front office, and I heard them talking, and one of them said, I think this is verbatim, we don't know if we'll have a commercial success, but we think we might have an artistic success. Yeah. That actually, I can promise you, they actually said, I heard them say that, you know. But I never thought of things like that, because that wasn't important to me. I didn't, you know, I was just hoping we were all trying to be the best we could with the film, you know. Yeah.
Selfish question. What scene from the film was the hardest to do?
I guess maybe the hardest would be the rumble. I remember how much in the theater playing Riff, how much I loved the rumble, because I had to do some pretty acrobatic things myself in the rumble playing Riff, but just wonderful stuff. But you know, I never thought of anything as being difficult. We were just so taken with what we were doing that that's how that went. I never thought of anything as being difficult. You know, I just hoped that I was pleasing Jerry and Bob Wise. That's what I hoped for, you know. Yeah.
Obviously, the film released, amazing success, award season comes. When did you first get the first inkling that your name was being discussed for Best Supporting Actor?
I think it was 1960 or 61. West Side Story was the film for the Royal Command Performance Film for the Queen in London at the Leicester Square Theatre. And so we were all, Russ and, oh gosh. So anyway, Russ and I were invited for that. We had to wear tails because we were going to meet the Queen. We met the Queen. But at that screening for the Queen that evening, there was an intermission. And during the intermission, in the English theater, there's a Stalls bar, and the people go and have a drink. Well, I guess they here do too, between acts. And so we're waiting. We're in the room waiting for the intermission. Excuse me. And it was during that intermission that Bob Wise spoke to the West Coast and found out what the nominations were. And he told me that night, and there were quite a few, but I was lucky. I'm one of them.
When they called your name at the Golden Globes, what's going through your mind? Did you expect anything at all based on what you've been hearing, or was it truly kind of out of the blue?
I don't remember the Golden Globes exactly. That was a different kind of evening. That for the Academy Awards, of course, it was in the theater and all of that. And Rita and I attended together. I remember when the car came and got me first, then we went to her. And as she was closing the door to her home, she said, "I'm practicing my loser's face." Anyway, so we're sitting there and in the theater, and the ceremony is going on. And the best way I can describe how I might have felt is if you're buying a lottery ticket, you don't expect to win, but you kind of hope that you might. It was something like that, because I don't know what I expected, but I just didn't. It's more like I described with the lottery. You buy a ticket and you hope you'll win, that you sure with the lottery you don't expect.
And there you are at Oscar night. Best Supporting Actor comes up. Bob Hope announces the category before Shirley Jones lists the amazing actors that are in the category. If I remember correctly, I think it was like Montgomery Clift, Peter Falk, George C. Scott, and Jackie Gleason from, it
was a hot year. It really was. Yes,
it was. So they're reading
the actress side as well too.
Yeah, they're reading the names, and then, what's going through your head at that time? And then your name's called, and you walk up and you gave possibly the shortest acceptance speech of all time.
Yeah. Well, now everybody does something very different. Things changed. But at that time, nobody said, "George, you should do this." I didn't think of doing anything, so I didn't. I didn't know what to say other than what I said. I wish I had thought to thank Jerry and things like that, because, in my opinion, I would not have been in the theater production or the film were it not for Jerry. And my feeling tells me he was my main supporter. I don't know that, but I just kind of think it.
That's our show for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. A special thanks to actor George Chakiris for joining us. George will be back again next week, so please tune back in. Stay safe, everyone.